Good morning, dear friends, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the Russian Federation in the United Nations, because the question that is being asked, especially after a number of pronouncements, the question that is being asked that they need to exclude the Russian Federation from the UN Security Council. And our team, the initiative group of the Civic Hub team, we're insisting on the fact that this is really not the right wording, because obviously, absolutely obviously, the workings of the UN Security Council are blocked because of Russia's position. And it has been like this for years and years and years. In fact, Russia has used veto powers more times than any other members of the permanent members of the UN Security Council combined. So while the question of Russia blocking the workings of the UN Security Council is correct, the question of excluding the Russian Federation from UN Security Council has to be posed somewhat differently for the following reason. The thing is, Russia is in the UN illegally. That's the whole point. Because in 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed and ceased to exist as a geopolitical reality and legal entity, Russia was a new country. It had to apply vis-a-vis UN. Russia was a new country, and it had to apply from scratch, just like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Moldova, so on and so forth, all other countries of the former Soviet Union. So rather than talking about excluding Russia from the Security Council, we have to talk about the fact that Russia is present, and we are insisting on our team of the Civic Hub Initiative Group is insisting that it's not about excluding, it's stopping Russia's illegitimate presence at the UN in general. Because you see, the fact that Russia is in the Security Council, this is a consequence of the fact that Russia is in the UN, okay? Because Security Council is a working body of the United Nations, right? Right. And then we're going back to the following question. How was it possible that Russia has ended up in the United Nations without going through all of the proper procedures? And, you can read all of these materials. Our team calls it the biggest geopolitical swindle of the 20th century. When vis-a-vis UN Charter, the only two foundations, so to say, for Russia to become present, again, I'm insisting on this, become present at the UN, because Russia never acquired the membership properly. So we cannot exclude someone who was never included, right? So the entire foundation for Russia's presence at the United Nations are two pieces of paper. One is so-called Almaty papers. Again, we call them papers because they bear no significance whatsoever for the UN. And number two is Yeltsin's letter, where they're saying, oh, we used to be Soviet Union, now we are Russia. Change of the nameplates. I mean, this is the entire story is like a subject of it's a detective story, because it was done on Christmas on December 24th, 1991, and that's a long story. But to make long story short, bottom line is we have to raise the issue of Russia's illegitimate presence at the UN. Then there are a number of mechanisms that I'll talk about it a little later. And we have to understand that Russia's presence at the Security Council is a consequence of Russia's illegitimate presence at the United Nations in general. The second question is, what can Ukrainian diplomacy do? What was already done, and what was Ukrainian diplomacy do? Well, I would again put it in a wider perspective, because Ukrainian diplomacy at the moment, it's not about diplomacy, but it's about awareness of other countries. Because basically, yes, Mr. Kislitsa, the head of the Ukraine's mission at the UN, has raised this issue recently. This issue was raised earlier by previous head of the UN mission, Ukraine's mission at the UN, Mr. Volodymyr Yelchenko. But now we're talking about the joint efforts of civil society and Ukrainian diplomacy and Ukrainian government in general, because it has to be a joint effort. And the awareness campaign for other countries that was started by our team basically bore some fruits. For instance, our team has directly participated in preparation of the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe's resolution, where it questions Russia's presence in the United Nations. Our team participated in the Ukrainian Parliament's decree, basically declaring Russia's illegitimate presence at the United Nations and calling upon other parliaments to adopt similar documents. So the latest pronouncement by Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Kuleba, it's a good and logical development of the efforts by Ukrainian diplomats and Ukrainian civil society. What can be done and the number of options here? Well, there are a number of options, and when can it be done? It can take anywhere from month to about a year, I would say, if we go through the route of the so-called credential committee, because we have developed a very, very strong legal base. And when I say we, is our international team of the initiative group of Civic Hub, which includes, our team includes the best scholars of international law on this earth, right? So we have developed a very strong legal argument that Russia's presence at the UN is totally illegitimate. Now, if that is taken into consideration, then we will go through so-called South African route through the Credential Committee. What it means is that the Credential Committee of the United Nations, before each session, they verify the credentials, and even through the Credential Committee, the South African delegation was not allowed to be present at the UN from 1969 to 1984. And that's the easiest way, because eventually the political decision will have to be made, and that part is considering the position of some countries of the global south and other considerations. It's not that easy. Okay, however, the route through the Credential Committee is something that can be done relatively quickly, and it would become a universal instrument for unblocking the workings of the UN Security Council and UN in general. So I hope that's kind of my quick take on the two questions that were asked. Thank you.